I'm so glad you stopped in today. I have the most ordinary and the most amazing author for you to meet today. Hi, I'm Judy Shearwaters. Welcome to my channel. Here I bring you author interviews of the ordinary people who had a story to share with the world. I also bring you writing prompts, short writing prompts to get those juices going in your own brain because you know what? You have a story to tell, so let me help you tell it. So I am excited about June Chapko today. I met her a few years ago when she was writing her first novel, and I had the pleasure and the blessing of being able to walk her through that publication. I want to ask you to please stay to the end of her interview because she is going to share a very interesting writing prompt that I never thought about. So please stay tuned and listen to all the wonderful writing tips that she has for you writers who are working on your memoir. So, without further ado, as they say in the showbiz, here's June Chapko. All right, and here is my dear friend, June Chapko, that I really am so excited to have her here today. Hello, June, how are you?
I'm doing wonderful, Judy. Thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. I do want to read your bio to my audience to start with, so they get a little bit of a glimpse into your background here.
Okay.
So, June is a transplanted Texan, has been since 1958, resides in San Antonio with her husband, Nick, and her little Shih Tzu puppy, Chai. She's a mom, grandmother, and great-grandmother. She enjoys reading, quilting, and finding teacup treasures for her burgeoning collection, which we will hear about a little later. She is a member of American Christian Fiction Writers and Advanced Writers and Speakers Association. June has written several Bible studies, many devotionals, and has been published in Mature Living, Quilt World magazines, and other publications. Her two novels, The Estate Sale and Legacy's Path, are the first in her Legacy series, with the third due out in the fall of 2021. June is active in her church women's ministry, teaches a women's Sunday school class, and loves to speak to women's groups. June was diagnosed with stage 2 breast cancer in June of 2020 during a worldwide pandemic. She used her journal to jumpstart the writing of a devotional book for breast cancer survivors. June is an active member of 2 breast cancer support groups, Metro Pink Warriors and Overcomers, Daughters of the King of Kings. So once again, welcome, June. So glad you're with us.
Thank you.
So first of all, and I may have mentioned this in my intro to my audience, that I had the pleasure of helping you through your first book. That was so much fun, and it's such a delightful read. So, which I had nothing to do with the read. You did all of that. So that was awesome. But tell me about your writing journey. When did you start writing, and what do you think got you started doing that?
Well, I love books to begin with. Back when I was very young, I started keeping a journal, a diary, if you will. Mm-hmm. And it was my way of expressing my thoughts, and where I didn't have a chance to talk to other people about things that I was dealing with. So I just put them in my diary, and that grew into journal keeping, and I've got a suitcase full of old journals. And so it was just, it kind of evolved, if you will, from that little locked diary into a novel.
Awesome. Did your diary have the little lock and key with it?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I did too. And
I still had to hide it.
Yeah, journals are very private, very intimate things that are just a part of us. I have 4 or 5 journals of my mom's from 1934, 1949, so several journals, and they're priceless to me.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about all of your books, each of your books. And I know I want to see a cover of each of them too.
Okay. My first book, The Estate Sale, came about because I love to go to estate sales. And when I would go, I would look at the things that were offered for sale, and especially if they had hats or teacups, both of which I dearly love. I have 1, 2, 3 china cabinets filled with tea sets and teacups. But I always wondered about the person who had passed and what type of person she was, why she collected certain things. And it just really intrigued me. And I was a little sad, and yet I was intrigued at the same time. And that kind of stuck in my head. And when I started thinking about it, I thought, I'm going to create an estate sale that will never, ever be equaled. And so The Estate Sale, book 1, is the result of that.
Beautiful book, beautiful story, awesome story. So
it's definitely different.
Yes, yes. And your next book?
The next one, book 2, spun off of book 1. It's called Legacy's Path. And it's much thicker than The Estate Sale. It follows the characters further. In the first book, the 8 characters, they attend the sale and they come away with a legacy. They're not really aware that it's a legacy, but they come away with it, and their lives are changed forever. And so book 2, Legacy's Path, takes the reader down the path of the characters and how they used the legacy they received. And there's drama, humor, romance, mystery. There's a little bit of everything in book 2. And also at the end of book 2, there is something happens to one of the characters. She finds a lump, and you won't know who it is or if it's anything to be concerned about until book 3 comes out. So wow. I'm not going to give that away.
That's awesome. So, I love that. It's kind of a little, an urging and a.
The thing about it is, when I wrote it, I did not know that I had a lump in the making.
Oh my goodness.
I had no idea that I was going to be going through cancer.
Oh, wow.
And so God was preparing me, I think.
Wow.
And it's every time I think about it, I get chill bumps because I had no way of knowing.
Wow. Does your third book somehow maybe build on the experience that you went through in your chemo days and all that?
Well, I can't tell you that because then you would know.
Okay, well, that's a hook. That's a hook. Very good.
But book 3 will pick up from there, and you'll know early on what the prognosis is.
Okay. Do you happen to have a workup of that book 3 cover yet?
This is the cover.
Oh no, that's your next. That's the one. Okay, but
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. No, I don't actually yet. I haven't got the cover design in mind.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. So now show me the book you just came out with.
Okay, that is Cancer, Courage, Christ, a devotional for breast cancer survivors.
Awesome. And
it's I don't have a copy in my hands. I have them ordered, but it is available on Amazon, ebook and print, paperback. But I don't have mine yet.
So, it's hot off the press. It's just really new, really new. I read that and I loved it. It's a memoir slash devotional, which is really a page turner. You think of only novels being page turners, but yours is a page turner. So kudos to you.
Thank you so much. I'm
Yes.
glad you enjoyed it.
I really enjoyed it. Now, you had a couple other devotionals before that, before your first novel.
Well, I wrote 2 Bible studies.
Okay.
And they were with another organization that I belonged to at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also co-authored a Bible study with my friend Joy Sainsworth, Count It All Joy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a health and wellness Bible study based on the book of James. So it's very, very good. It's gotten very 5-star reviews.
That's
and
awesome.
It's a very good book too.
Good. Good. Well, congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you.
So now let's kind of talk about your cancer diagnosis and your treatment. Tell us what were your feelings when you were first diagnosed with cancer?
Well, it was definitely an adventure. My first reactions were disbelief because I had been praying that it would just be a cyst.
Sure.
You know, some benign cyst or density or some weird thing. And everybody around me was praying for a cyst. And so when I got the diagnosis on June 10th last year, I was really in disbelief because I just knew it wasn't going to be anything. I'd never had an abnormal mammogram before. And then anger set in. I'm not sure who I was angry at. A little bit for me because I had missed getting my mammogram in 2019. My husband had been hospitalized and he was in the hospital like 11 days. He nearly died. So getting a mammogram was the last thing on my mind.
Right.
So I was a little angry at myself for that, but then fear set in. And I had to reconcile that because I'm a woman of faith and I'm like, really, God, you know, why couldn't it be a cyst? You could have made it a cyst.
Sure.
But I finally reconciled that that's what it was. And I cried a lot, but once I got over that, then God was able to help me, strengthen me, and guide me.
Good, good. So tell us what your biggest challenge was during your treatment.
Fatigue, number one. I was not prepared for the severity of the fatigue. I had been warned, the doctors and everybody had told me, you know, you're going to be very, very tired at times. You'll have a little energy and then you're going to get tired. Oh, okay. You know, big deal. Well, when it finally happened, I was not prepared because I'm a doer. I like to be up doing things and busy and on the go. And of course, with the pandemic, I couldn't go anywhere, but I would get this spurt of energy and start cleaning something out or doing something or playing with Chai. And then all of a sudden it was like everything drained out of me. And all I could do was just get in the recliner and just collapse. And I was really taken back by that because I wasn't expecting that severe. And then I think next to that would be the chemo fog. My brain, the chemo drugs, they kind of make you a little foggy where you search for a certain word and you can't find it, more so than just normal.
Yes.
And I work with numbers. I'm the office manager in our business. And so, you know, working with the checkbooks and invoices, I really, really had to double check myself all the time. So fatigue first, big time, and then chemo fog, which still affects me even now to a lesser degree.
Sure, sure. Well, what encouraged you to write this book, and how did it come about that you even wrote it? I mean,
Well, when I started chemo in June of last year, I took my journal with me because they told me, well, you're going to have, like 3.5 hours of sitting here.
wow.
And so I went in and got hooked up to the infusion thing, and I sat there. And of course, there were other people there, but they were either reading or, the first time there, I was a little hesitant about asking somebody something about themselves. So I wrote in my journal and kind of just poured my feelings out onto the page. And God just, I don't even nudged me, maybe winked at me like, June, you need to be writing down everything that you're going through so that at some point others are going to see me in you.
Oh, wow.
And so as I did that, I was very honest in my feelings and wrote out, every single thing that I was going through. And that started that day. Well, then the further I got into it, I realized other ladies need to read this. They need to be able to understand that they're not alone, that, they will have these kinds of feelings and they're going to face this challenge and, loss of taste and all the side effects. They need to know that they're going to go through this and that someone else went through it and, hey, she's still here. And so that's when I determined I was going to write my story. And then I was reading one day in Ecclesiastes chapter 3, where it says, there's a time for every season, season, time to be born, a time to die. And those first eight verses were exactly what I needed. They were speaking to me through my experience. So I decided I was going to write a devotional to put in with my story. And I started out one devotional for each of those verses, each of those topics. And then I thought, there's so much more I want to say. And so one wasn't good enough. I had to put two. So there I was, two devotionals for each of those. And so there's 60 devotionals in the book. And when I really started putting my feelings about being born, a time to be born, my time to be born, and my mother's time to be born because she had breast cancer.
Yes.
And, things like that, and a time to die. And it just all fit so well.
Yeah. And you brought 10 other cancer ladies, cancer friends along to help you write this or to add to it. Tell me how that came about.
Well, I was introduced to two wonderful support groups, the Pink Warriors, Metro Pink Warriors, and Overcomers, Daughters of the Kings. And as I met ladies in both groups, along with my nurse navigator, she has one story in there too. I realized that their stories were so different from mine. And my doctor told me this, but it didn't hit me until I met these ladies. No two breast cancer cases are alike. I don't care. I was stage 2. There were a lot of women who had stage 2, but they were all different stories. And the treatment was different. It just depends on the individual. But we were put in a small group, and I got to meet such beautiful ladies and learn their stories. And some of them had little children and how they went. The founder of one group, the big group, she was pregnant with her 8th child.
Oh my
when
goodness.
She was diagnosed. Yes. And I was just amazed. And so I asked each of these ladies if they would consider writing their story out a limit of 1 page and allow me to use it in a book. Well, they were thrilled.
Mhm.
So, it took a while to get those back, but each story is very, very special. And each one speaks to a different aspect of
Right.
having breast cancer.
Right. Great stories. I've read the whole book, and it's just great stories, yeah, from each one of them. It's hard to put such an experience into 1 page, but
It is.
yeah,
I had to do a lot of editing.
I'm sure you did. Yeah. So all in all, by the time you got all these stories back and everything, how long do you think it took you to do this one book?
Well, I started in June of 2020. I finished my part in December. And then in January, starting in January, I worked on the devotionals, and I got that done in, I think, 3 months. And then, or 2 months, then I got the stories back from the other ladies. So I finished in July. So it was a year and a month when I finally finished it. Of course, then it had to be edited and go through all
Sure.
that. So,
Sure.
yeah.
So who would you say your audience is?
Mhm.
Probably
Well,
rather
of course,
obvious, but
breast cancer survivors, number one. But, when breast cancer hits, it doesn't affect just one person. It affects the husband, the
Yeah.
children, the immediate family,
sure.
the friends around that person, the extended family. Sometimes co-workers are affected by that person having breast cancer in the community. So anyone who is close to the cancer survivor is going to be affected. And I think this book would really minister to those people and provide some insight into why they feel this way today and tomorrow they're different, and how they can help this person, and what's really important in life to this person. So support groups could certainly benefit from reading it and sharing among themselves.
Sure.
Book clubs, I think, would be another ideal
Definitely.
group.
When we spoke before, you mentioned the huge positive in this worldwide pandemic for you personally. Can you tell me again, or tell my audience, what positive you found from the pandemic?
Well, when a pandemic hits, when this one hit, I was stuck at home all the time, and I didn't have connection with people, or didn't go anywhere, that kind of thing, except to the doctors and treatments and whatnot. But I'm a people person, and I'm usually very upbeat. And so I realized that God was showing me that He allowed this in my life so that others would see the joy that He had given me, and that they would be affected by it. And, that it doesn't have to be, down in the mouth thing. Cancer is serious. I'm not saying that. Nobody wants cancer, but we all deal with different things. And I found joy right in the middle of all this, because God was there strengthening me, and He showed me humorous aspects of it. My pastor saw my bald head when I didn't even realize it until later. And, I could laugh. And I think laughter and joy is what everyone needs, especially in a pandemic.
That's right. That's right.
Very important.
I know you mentioned to me when everybody else was having to stay home, you got to go to your chemo appointments, and you met up with other patients there. So I guess that was a positive.
What was so funny about that is because I had never been in a close area with more than 2 people. And then I go to chemo, and there's, maybe 10 people there. we finally started opening up to each other, and we would laugh and cry and, share things. And I made notes in my journal to pray for this one for this and this one for that. And
that's awesome.
even the nerd, one thing that was really cute, an author friend of mine sent me a pair of socks to wear during chemo. Well, on the bottom of the left foot, it says, if you can read this, and then the right foot said, bring me tea.
How cute.
I wore them, and of course I had my feet, out extended. And every time, a nurse or another patient would walk by, they'd see that and they would start chuckling. And then I would start laughing.
How
and
fun.
So I was bringing them joy just by wearing them silly socks. And I mean, that was really fun. I enjoyed doing that. Sometimes I would wear different things on my head. And so one time I wore just a silly looking scarf and the way it was done. And everybody got the biggest kick out of that. So bringing laughter into a place where there's sadness or cancer was very, very fun. I enjoyed that.
That's good. That's good. So would you please read a little section of your book maybe that
I would love to.
You'd like to. Thank you.
All right. This was right after I finished chemo, but before I had my surgery.
Okay.
I wrote, 1 week post chemo, I realized it's not really over. I still have to get through the side effects from the last infusion: nausea, loss of taste, lightheadedness, brain fog, numb fingertips, and painful nails. I was assured these would pass in time, but at the moment, I feel miserable. I pray, God, give me strength to endure, patience for my journey, and joy in your presence. Resting doesn't come easy. I'm used to being up and about, getting things done, and seeing accomplishments at the end of the day. Hearing the doctor tell me to rest up before my surgery next month was not a suggestion, but rather a prescription. I know there's much to do before that day. Tests and appointments take priority. In between, I find my spot in the recliner with Chai, my sweet Shih Tzu, who is confused about all his mommy is going through. He doesn't understand my inability to play like before. When he climbs into my lap, lays his head down, and takes a deep sigh, my eyes tear up. Soon, Chai, soon. I think about the word rest. In Matthew 11:28, Jesus says, come to me, all you who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. I have followed Jesus for many years, and yet there are still times I try to carry my burdens alone. What does the word rest mean? According to the verse spoken by Jesus, it is he who gives rest. But how do I get this rest? Jesus continues teaching in verse 29, take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. I relax in my recliner, a place I go to rest daily. I don't always feel rested, though. I pore over scriptures and pray. I finally realize that I haven't really appreciated the value of rest. When I'm at rest, my body can renew itself as God intended when he created me. Then a little light bulb went off. If my physical body is renewed at rest, so is my mind and my soul. I draw a tiny light bulb alongside Matthew 11:28 and 29, my aha moment when the spiritual light bulb went off. God promises to provide rest when I seek him. It is God's strength permeating through me that gives me focus and power to be renewed each day. I see rest now not as frivolous, but as vital to being a breast cancer survivor.
Wow. That is so special. I love that visual you give us, that light bulb that went off reading Matthew. That's quite an eye opener there. So you're right. You're right. So June, now what? Another book? I mean, you're still working on your book 3 of your series. What else?
Book three is I'm over halfway. I'm on chapter 16.
Okay.
And the title will be Legacy's Truth.
Mm.
And hopefully I was wanting to get it out by this fall, but it's probably going to be December, maybe.
Okay.
Christmas time.
Good Christmas gift.
Once, yeah, there we go.
Mhm.
Once I finish that, I have another story that I started many years ago, and it's like 3/4 finished.
Oh, wow.
Of
Okay.
course, now I'm at a different age and a different place in my life.
Yeah.
So the story may change somewhat, but it's a good story. And I think I will probably finish that one up.
Good.
Then maybe a Bible study. I love
right. Wow. Good for you. Good for you. You just, there's no stopping you, June. I mean, you just keep on trucking. Good for you.
Well, you know, I have this theory. As long as God is calling me to do things, then I'll still be here. When he's done calling me to do things, so I want to keep doing what he calls me to do.
That's right. So true. So true. What, do you have any little tidbit of advice for my audience? These are people who are maybe working on their memoirs and looking to maybe publish someday. What advice would you give them?
The same advice that's given to me, just do it. You know, it doesn't have to be perfect. Put it on paper. You can make it perfect later, but just do it. Get the words down, and don't worry about how it sounds when you're writing it. Just put it on paper, whatever God puts on your heart. If it's a memoir, don't try to cover your whole life. Just pick one poignant time in your life. And I did write a short memoir that was included years ago in a collection at the San Antonio Library. They had a memoir writing class, and it turned out beautiful. Not the first time, but when I rewrote it 4 times, under the prompting of the instructor, I saw that I was trying to cram too much in. So I think that would be the best advice. Just pick a certain portion or a certain theme or time and write about that and stay with that. But
good advice. Good advice. So my writing in my YouTube channel, excuse me for my voice, is just having problems here. I give out a lot of writing prompts. So would you look at your writing prompts in your book? I know you give like 60 writing prompts in there, something like that.
Yes.
So choose one, and would you read that to us? And
I will
end our video with your writing prompt today.
All right. Before I do that, I would like to say in my book, Cancer, Courage, Christ, there's also a section right before the writing. Anyway, it says your time. And that's where, you have a space there where you can write something if you choose to use that. You can also use a journal, but
great.
All right. So this is from day 35, and it says, have you thought about resting inwardly in addition to physically? What are some ways you have discovered which will enable God's peace to flow through you?
Read that one more time, June.
Have you thought about resting inwardly in addition to physically? What are some ways you have discovered which will enable God's peace to flow through you? When we rest inwardly, God gives us peace.
Right.
And so once we start giving our things to him, giving our concerns and our tensions and worries, that's all on the inside. Once we start turning that over to him, then he can give us peace.
Okay.
And so it's different for everybody.
Yeah.
What causes me to have peace inwardly is different from what may, happen with
Right.
you. And so it's a very personal thing. And
Sure.
I think anyone who reads that prompt, you could have 5 people and you're going to have 5 different responses. It's all going to be different.
Right. I just imagine myself at my age, especially if I have an opportunity and I'm really tired and I'll take a nap in the afternoon, just that laying down and just trying to clear my brain of everything.
Yes.
I think this resting inwardly just takes you a little bit farther.
Right.
You're kind of, okay, Lord, what do you want me to? How do you want me to rest? That
Yeah.
sort of thing. So that's I love that. I love that.
Thank you.
So forgive me for my throat. It just comes and goes and I have no control over it. So
mine's like that at 6 a.m. too. So
well, thank you, June. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day. And my audience, I know, has learned a lot from you. So I appreciate your time. And God bless you as you go on to more books for our reading pleasure. So,
thank you. And thanks for all your help. And as I was getting started on my very first novel, it's an author isn't an author until it's in print.
That's true.
You're a writer until it's in print, then you're an author.
Okay? That's right. That's right.
And you played a huge part in me becoming an author. And I appreciate it.
I was blessed and it was a pleasure. So I see I made a new friend through it all. So there you go.
Yes, definitely.
So, all right. Have a great day, June. Thank you.
You too. Thank you.
Bye-bye. I'm so happy you were able to join us today. And I was really excited to be able to introduce you to June Chapko. I love her writing. I love her calmness of spirit. And the writing tidbits that she gave us can help you to get your journey written down. So I've put all of her contact information in the show notes down below. You can click on a link and it'll take you to one of her books. All of her books are a delight to read. So if you enjoy receiving writing prompts like June gave you today and that I put out every week, or you enjoy hearing these author interviews, go ahead and like my channel, subscribe, and click that little bell so that you are notified of every time I put out a new video like this. So until next time, I'm Judy Shearer Waters. You have a story to tell. Let me help you tell it.